This one's entitled The Lions and Advisor KPIs. Now, the British Lions, for anybody that doesn't know, is the rugby team, rugby union that is, of course, of the British Isles, which is clever. I think it's brilliant because it includes the whole of Ireland. So hence I say British Isles, not the UK, because that doesn't include the Republic. And it's got the best players basically from those four nations. And they're rocking up in South Africa at the moment, trying to beat the Springboks, which is a hard thing to do because they're big buggers, these Springboks. They're built on meat, aren't they, out in the veldt. But anyway, the point is that when you watch the coaching team of the British Lions on the telly, and you know, the screenshot, the camera's, you know, obviously recording a scrum that's going on. The scrum gets boring, so it goes to the crowd and you get these silly people smiling. And it goes up to the coaching team. And there you've got this coaching team of very intelligent looking men and women, usually about 4 or 5 of them, all with laptops. They've got these laptops and they've got their noses stuck in their laptops. It's incredible when you look at it. You think, what are they up to? You know, why are they watching the game? They're probably playing a computer game, but they're not. What they're doing, of course, is they're looking at the laptop, which has got loads and loads of statistics, metrics or KPIs on how the players are performing. And if you were to look at a shirt of a rugby player, at the back, sewn into the back of the shirt, is an electronic gadget about the size of an old calculator, I suppose, or size of a. Here, what have I got here? A highlighter pen, and this thing sits at the back. And this talks to the laptops or the software, and it's basically giving the coaches a rundown on how that player is getting on. So energy levels, heart rates, all sorts of physical measures about how that player is performing. And these coaches are obviously monitoring this all the time. If somebody's lost a lot of their power, you know, they'll replace them, they'll put a substitute on. They do that regularly, and that often wins the game. Eddie's pretty good at that for the England team as well. He brings in people when he needs to. So that's a great metaphor, really, if you think about it. Now, in the same way as a mortgage principal, or if you look after a team of mortgage advisors, or if you've got a few new advisors in your team, you need to have some way of measuring their performance. I wouldn't suggest you sew into their body some kind of electrical gadget. I think the FCA would probably have something to say about that. But you do need to be able to monitor their performance. And if some of the stats are not looking so good, then you need to do some coaching. I'm not saying you replace them. You might do, I suppose. But you need to do some coaching and some training and development as well. But the problem is that most firms make this far too complicated. The reason is you get a software manufacturer who sells you their software that does it all. It's just far too complex. I've seen them. I've seen spreadsheets from big corporates where you've got hundreds of data points. And these poor sales managers are looking at this going, what's going on? So the software company does what they call an exception report, or a unique report which highlights key information. That's proven to you that it's just too complicated for its own good. I wish people wouldn't overcomplicate stuff. I think that's just the nightmarish thing ever. But as a coach, you do need to monitor your advisor, and there's 2 types. I talked about this last week actually. The first one is your development KPIs for your advisor. In fact, the advisors themselves can monitor that, KPIs. And the second one is what we call performance KPIs. I think they're separate. You don't have to separate them if you don't want to, but they are very different. KPI, by the way, is key performance indicator. And here's some examples of development KPIs, which we talked about the other week as well. You can have a quality score. So if you measure them against certain qualities, you can have a quality score of their capability, etc. That's a nice one to have. Number of coaching sessions that they've had that month would be a nice little KPI to have. Are they getting enough is the key there as well. Number of one-to-one reviews that you've carried out with the advisor, maybe they're monthly. That'd be a good KPI to go to as well. Live observation scores. So live scores from an observation aid, you might have sort of 70%. You know, I carry these around all the time when I do my coaching. You know, you watch an advisor and you're ticking off what they should be doing for their skills. I'm not talking about compliance here. That's different. I'm talking about skills, development. You can have CPD goals as well. So squeeze that one at the bottom. There's all sorts of things you can measure about their development. Now, performance, probably the most important one, that's one that the British Lions will be monitoring. That's on their key out as well. So for a mortgage advisor, you can have, for example, how many inquiries to sign-ups. Now, a sign-up is where the mortgage is completed, an inquiry is a lead. And you might have a ratio, say 3-to-1 for that one, which depends on how good your inquiries are, how good your leads are. You do need to measure that. Because if somebody's burning your data and not actually signing any mortgages up, they might be the best mortgage advisor in the world, but they ain't making any money. And at the end of the day, I get it about advising is professional, but you've got to make money. It's a business like anything else. So you've got to measure that as well. You might have sort of a league of income, for example, 35 grand or whatever income you might have as a kind of a target. Be careful with that, of course. You've got to be careful with these things. But again, people need to produce an income to pay their salary and their outgoings as well. You definitely need compliance KPIs. So things like maximum complaint numbers, suitability report checking, file checking, all those things. Are they adhering to compliance? Because if you don't do that, then you're out on your ears anyway, aren't you? Activity is another one you could certainly measure if you wanted to. Activity. So you may want them to do actually 4 hours a day of client face-to-face meetings, being on Zoom or whatever. So a lot of advisors they kind of drift into easy street sometimes, the path of least resistance, they call it. They'd rather do admin than talk to customers. Some get that. So 4 hours a day might be what you've targeted them for. So these are targets as well as KPIs, key performance indicators. You may have some sort of service level agreements, SLAs. Sure you do. How quickly do you respond to an inquiry, for example? If you buy your leads, do you get onto them in 20 minutes or something like that? So you do need these things, and you need to measure them. And you need to collate them either on software or whatever, or just on a spreadsheet. It's entirely up to you. And that way you can measure their performance and you can do some further coaching. That's all it's for. You get rid of people for this, but you do coach people and you have to. It's your job. That's what these people are relying upon, particularly the younger generation who want mentors. They regard mentors as trainers, coaches, confidants, all that stuff. You can't just let somebody just get on with it anymore. Maybe in the 80s, 90s that worked, but not now. You've just got to look after people. So there's the British Lions. So will we beat the Springboks? I don't know. Be good matches. It's on Sky. So, not all of us have got Sky. We haven't got Sky, which is a bit of a shame, really. And, we just have to get used to watching the telly where they zoom the camera to the coaches up in the boxes with all their laptops. Talk about the football, of course. You go back to football and all you see is Gareth Southgate and Mancini shouting at the sidelines at their players. That's how they do it in football. It's a slightly different way of operating, isn't it? So I hope that's been useful for you.